Our final story today spotlights a community-partnered research project called the Pittsburgh Study. It demonstrates a new way of doing science, translating research into policy and practice. Here's Tonya Caruso with more.
The Pittsburgh Study is one of the most delightful, I think joyful, community-partnered adventures, meaning that community members and professional scientists coming together to make sure that every child in Allegheny County is healthy, thriving, and meeting their academic goals.
For the next 2 decades, researchers will be collaborating with community partners in this ambitious project known as the Pittsburgh Study, following up to 25,000 children in the region from birth through high school.
What that means is that the science looks really different, because when you have community members invested in doing this work, then it no longer feels like research on. It becomes research with.
This is a collective impact study, meaning partners are involved in numerous studies about health and social influences on a child's well-being. Plenty of research has been done on complex social problems, but the Pittsburgh Study is the only study to examine these factors in the same children over such a long period of time. The goal is to untangle a complex web of social, racial, and economic inequalities that prevent children and communities from thriving. Those could include everything from hunger and homelessness to chronic health problems, violence, and systemic racism, creating barriers to academic and job opportunities.
Because it is absolutely true that, if you want to look for a healthy community, you have to look to see what's happening for the children, and vice versa, that if we want healthy children, we had been absolutely sure that we're focusing on vibrant communities as well. And it is really that sensibility and bringing an anti-racism frame into our work that is at the core of the Pittsburgh Study.
One of the most unique aspects of the Pittsburgh Study is that it approaches issues from a strength-based perspective rather than a deficit base.
We can map a lot of negative things. One of the things that we have not paid attention to is where are things going well, and go, what's the magic going on there? Even in the context of limited resources, there are absolutely places that are doing better than expected. And that is something that we call bright spotting.
The study already has over 500 community partners, with many more planned, all trained to document and replicate bright spots at schools, in homes, and throughout the community.
Brother David, how you doing?
One of them is the Neighborhood Resilience Project, serving Pittsburgh's Hill District.
It is absolutely critical to have people in the community playing a leading role in the dissemination of information and the participation in any kind of research project.
Staff and volunteers here focus on developing the community through trauma-informed care, meaning practices that promote a culture of safety, empowerment, and healing.
There are many traumas that affect the health and well-being of a particular community, whether it be physical assault or violence of a particular kind, whether it be neglect or insults that people have to constantly endure. It's important to understand that trauma can not only be a personal experience, but it can also be a collective experience. And so there are particular neighborhoods where not everybody has lost a son to gun violence, but everybody knows somebody who has. Not everybody has been evicted, but everybody knows somebody who has. Not everybody has a relative incarcerated, but everybody knows someone who has. It's important to understand that the antidote to this trauma is resilience. The strength of the Pittsburgh Study is that it is really focusing on not simply the trauma that affects the health and well-being of children, but really those protective factors, the resilience that can be absolutely built so that we understand the best way to not only exist, but thrive in the face of this adversity.
This concept of thriving communities is one that resonates with the Neighborhood Resilience Project as it does with the Pittsburgh Study. And we are consistently coming back to our shared principles to say, How are we doing? Are we truly centering community members' voices and their wisdom in this work? There were already community members who were at the ready to serve our neighborhoods.
My name is Carla. I'm with the Fineview Perry Hilltop Citizens Council and the Resilience Project.
When the coronavirus pandemic started, some of those volunteers were mobilized to serve as community health deputies.
We're just making sure our neighbors are safe.
They've been talking to their neighbors about the COVID vaccine, providing face masks, and offering health resources.
I think it's important that they know who they're talking to. Okay, Miss Mary.
Thanks for stopping.
Thank you. Thank you for talking. And if I find out any information, I'll give you back a call. The whole neighborhood is worth fighting for. And I want people in my community to be able to get all the things that they need to make their lives livable. And you should be proud of where you live at. And that this is home.
When you listen to people's stories, there is so much pride, so much to be lifted up.
And so, for the next 2 decades, the Pittsburgh Study will continue to listen to those stories and find those bright spots.
And what we want to do is take all the best practices, all the best in science, and work with the wisdom of community members to make sure that we are doing what feels relevant, that feels respectful, that feels like we are going to actually make a difference. And it's a pretty joyful way to think about public health.